going on a campaign.
Matthews and the Gausu, who is alleged to have shot. Have you heard that the two of them appear to have some, differences, and they sought to use the occasion to settle it?
We've heard all kinds of accounts. That's why I'm saying that all the eyewitness accounts, including the media reports, confirm that at the center of that clash were weapons, machetes, guns. Me, that is my concern. Why do you campaign with these things? Is it in fulfillment of the all die be die agenda espoused by their flag bearer? Because their flag bearer has said that, look, in this election, it's all die be die. They must win at all cost. He has admonished his followers that it has to be an eye for an eye. They must win at all costs. That in Atiwa, they showed just small, what he called yechre kakra, of what they really want to do ahead of the main election. So you can see a certain fulfillment, a certain following of that edict by the leader of the MPP. Now, I had Nana Akomia on the peace program. We must commend the Otum for IDEC, the National Peace Council. I think that it was a very good program, very well attended. Everybody who really matters in terms of key political actors were present at the meeting, the two former presidents. Everybody spoke well. Why is it that the only speech which has come up for discussion, for controversy, is Nana Akufo-Addo's speech? You see a certain pattern, Samson. Since Nana Addo's first press conference as leader of the opposition, you remember his first press conference. This is what he said. I am very concerned that sooner or later, militants on our side, convinced that the state cannot or will not protect them, may take measures to protect their interests, themselves and their loved ones. Events would then be out of control, driving all of us towards a point of no return, unquote. This is Nana Akufo-Addo. He follows that with all die be die, that as for this election, it doesn't matter whether lives are lost for him to become president. He follows at KNUST with this election we must win at all cost. Then he follows up again with Etiwakra Yechre Bibi Kakra Woho. To wait in Etiwa, we exhibited a little bit of our violent tendencies. Then he comes to Kumasi, probably the last opportunity for him to just, redeem himself, just cleanse himself of all these, violent statements and speeches, and listen to what he says. Quote, I believe the reason the atmosphere still seems clouded with anxiety and there are increasingly loud calls for peace is because the government has not tried to build any confidence measures to assure the citizens that the security agencies have a free hand to do their work in an impartial manner. The rapid apprehension and prosecution of members of the ruling party who have been responsible for the recent violence against members of the MPP in Asutifi South, a constituency represented in parliament by a cabinet minister, will be one such measure. Then Nana Addo continues. Another will be an immediate impartial investigation into the disturbing contents of the now infamous Yabuatinjan tape, which the national organizer of the NDC has accepted as genuine, together with the immediate publication of the results of the inquiry. People do not feel that the security agencies are party colorblind in performing their duties. You were saying that Nana Addo lodged complaints. I go further. I think he gave conditions for peace. Clearly, looking at this manuscript, it is clear Nana Akufo-Addo came there giving conditions for peace. That to him, if these conditions are not met, then let the violence continue.
But some say,
people will go on house to house with guns and machetes.
This is a leader who was being realistic to the facts, who was not trying to bury his head in the sand to come and say, okay, yes, we are all being called for peace, so let's talk peace, and forget about the real issues. We need to bring them up for the necessary attention. The former president, Jerry Rawlings, also gave indicated the anxiety that's, you refer to.
Something. I get your question.
Dr. Papakwesi Indum also made similar comments.
I get your question. Reference to the facts, I would say, Nana Akufo-Addo came out as a very dishonest leader. selective amnesia. If Nana Akufo-Addo has spoken like Papa Kwesindo, like President Rawlings, like President Kufuor, who made general statements, who, called on all sides to be vigilant, to eschew violence. If he had said, like President Rawlings, that there can be no peace without justice, I will respect him and I would agree with him. But I cannot agree with Nana Akufo-Addo when he cites only examples which favors him. So Nana Akufo-Addo has not heard, he's interested in tapes. He hasn't heard about the Cabo tape, where on the tape, Cabo talks about how mercenaries are being recruited, how Igbe brigadiers are going to be attacked. Nana Akufo-Addo didn't hear that. Nana Akufo-Addo didn't hear his deputy communications director caught on tape, telling students that, look, guns are expensive, you may have to license guns, but as for disused pesos, license it, just get it, arm yourself with it, and hit people's mouths with it on election day if they attempt to snatch the ballot box. Nana Akufo-Addo didn't hear that tape. Nana Akufo-Addo didn't hear Maso Kofi Juma, who brazenly said that, look, in the 2008 elections, on his way to time, he had multiple guns in his car. He had ballot papers already thumb-printed. He would do it again because he doesn't trust, he has no confidence in the Electoral Commission. The EC director, IT director is an NDC man, and so he would do it again. Nana Akufo-Addo didn't hear all this.
But is it not fair for him
only
to be
last
worried?
week.
To be worried
Actually,
that
only
in
this,
the case of Yabuatin, who has
Samson,
admitted to the tape, he's been let go.
Yao Jan was investigated. Listen to the content of that tape. I mean, if national security investigates the tape, and national security says a lot of the claims that he made were just bluffs, that he doesn't have control by even recruitment in special forces. He doesn't even know how special people are recruited into the special forces. That all the claims he makes and the assurances he was giving to those young men that, after your errands, when you come, we'll get you. They were just bluffs. So they just laughed at the national organizer. That's what I heard the national security coordinator say. So it is not true that there was no investigation. There was an investigation. The national security coordinator spoke subsequently. But I'm saying that let's say that even that investigation, you are not happy with it. It wasn't far-reaching enough. As a leader who wants to be honest, who wants to be sincere, who wants the people of this country to see you and look at you as a man we can trust. Was this what you had to do? Give conditions? And even in those conditions, you engage in selective amnesia. Only last Sunday, at an MPP event in Kaswa, an NDC activist who was just walking by in NDC t-shirts was pounced upon and beaten to pulp. As I speak to you, the gentleman is still at the Kolebu hospital. We can all cite examples.
This was reported to the police?
On a daily, yeah, it's been reported to the Kaswa police. On a daily basis, we can cite examples. There is a gentleman, again last Sunday, who works with the Inside newspaper. I think he handles their production. Again, political discussions, he was chanced upon, beaten to pulp. His right eye has lost sight as we speak. So on a daily basis, there are all these things going on. And if politicians on a peace platform want to be selective, cite only examples that suit us, we can do that. But it is not for a flag bearer to do that. It doesn't build confidence. And it tells you, and that is why I want to make the point, that I'm getting exceedingly frightened in these elections. Because for the first time, you have a political party put out an advert that they have established hotlines. Have you heard that advert, Samson? The MPP says that they have hotlines. They start by telling you that report to the appropriate authorities. After you've exhausted all those processes, you can contact us. Contact you for what? The MPP will now be what? Complementing the security agencies? It's a recipe for chaos.
But you are accusing somebody of selectivity. But in this particular advert, you are being selective.
It's total recklessness.
Something. It's being selective in this particular advert.
No,
everybody heard the advert.
But that,
you chose to forget the other part.
I haven't forgotten it. I mean, that I have admitted to that point.
Because
I'm saying that, no, I'm saying that you should have stopped there. You report to relevant security agencies. If all of us as political parties establish hotlines and have standby forces, gendarmes, who are waiting to go and do the job of a police, of the military. I mean, what is going to happen in this election?
Let me bring Abdul Malik Kubaku in here. What do you make of the posturing of both parties in the wake of the signing of the pact and 2 days after an incident of this nature happens?
I will deal with that issue subsequently. But there have been issues raised, and I need to address them. See, my brother Okudutu read what he said, Nanado said, and I'm sure he was referring to 26th May 2009. Is it the speech Nana delivered at the Ebenezer Hall, Presbyterian Church, Osu? Thank God. Now, let me quote that particular statement. The MPP's leadership has worked very hard to restrain our supporters from reacting to these acts of intimidation and provocation. I am very concerned that sooner or later, militants on our side, convinced that the state cannot and will not protect them, may take measures to protect their interests, themselves and their loved ones. Events will then be out of control, driving all of us to a point of no return. That's where he stopped. Nana proceeded further. All of us, the president, the ruling party, the parties in opposition, and civil society must together act to make our country peaceful and safe, and thus preserve our democracy for prosperity. My brother's decision to stop where he stopped, without reference to this important paragraph, for me, it's quite significant. And you see, that's what we've been doing to ourselves. People make statements, we take the statements, we either truncate them or take them out of context, put it out there to achieve a propaganda capital. In the process, we actually engage in ugly politicization of the issues, and at the end of the day, we are all losers. Now, he's been talking of eyewitnesses and what? Media reports. You are a lawyer, fortunately, and I'm sure you two are. I'm not sure about that. Eyewitness accounts, no matter how many they are, media reports, no matter how many they are no substitute for the findings of a professional investigations conducted by the appropriate statutory organization, in this case, the police. So I do not expect a Deputy Minister of Information at this point in time, 48 hours or so since the event, to lift what he considers to be eyewitness reports. And in any case, one of the eyewitnesses, the one that he mentioned, is supposed to be a sister of the victim. Is that not so?
That is so.
She may or may not be right, but there's an element of possible bias. So you don't lift it out of context and present it to us and our viewers and listeners as if that is gospel truth. I think it would have been better for us at this stage that the police, at least Napo reported, they took a statement, they put him on bail. For me, these are indicators of serious investigations, at least for now. Okay? Nobody is favoring anybody. And to await police, even if it's an interim finding, that will point to certain areas, than to have our politicians, if you like, because I'm more or less a politician too, so sometimes I have to be careful. But if you like, call me a political activist rather than a politician. And them to come and put it out there. I've listened from yesterday to today. Across the divide, allocation of blame, finding of people as guilty before police investigation is completed. All this is being done. That subculture actually undermines sometimes
Sammy may
the
have,
outcome of the professional work.
Sammy may have relied on eyewitness accounts and all, but don't you think it is curious? And he raises the question, what was a gun doing in the midst of that activity? In
whose hands? I've heard reports. You are tempting me to make the same point. I've heard reports, people saying the gentleman who is a victim, purported to be a victim because he's in hospital, also had a gun. that there were shots from the other side as well as shots from this side. So that question must go for both sides. But who am I now to sit here and make a finding that only Napo's side or the Matthews, is that the name?
Matthews.
Matthews was the side. I can't do that. First of all, I was physically so far away from there. My reporters have not given me any report. As I sit here, it's only media reports and what I've heard the police say on air. So I am unable, indeed disabled, from arriving at definitive conclusions on the matter when it's even 72 hours since the event. And for me, perhaps because I'm a journalist and just an ordinary person, sometimes I can speculate, even though I don't think that is very fair. But when you have the Deputy Information Minister, and if you like, even if an NPP official, both engage in an exercise where they allocate blame and find each other guilty ahead of the findings.
I hope you are not suggesting that's what I did.
Oh, but it was obvious.
Prejudicial.
Your statements, you were not asking questions. No, you asked the question and proceeded, and you did the whole stride to redirect you. You asked the question, it appeared to be rhetorical, but beyond it, you then brought some findings to it, showing where you stood. And you are not the only one I'm talking about, please. I'm not going to personalize this. I've heard other NDC top shots this morning on your sister radio station. I've heard it. I monitor a lot. And that's the trend. And I'm saying that trend is what kills sometimes the professional element in the investigative process. So the investigative process is trapped. I'm not saying the investigative bodies should not be able to go beyond that, but they unduly get diluted, polarized, bastardized along the line. I can give you 1,001 examples since the Fourth Republic began.
Okay, so the facts as we have them now.
I think we can condemn the incident as a drawback, particularly coming 24 hours or so after the Kumasi Declaration, and I would even, in tune with the declaration, a copy of which I have here, certain particular paragraphs indicate that the party leaders, even without having the full details, can make a statement of condemnation,
so
because it is in the face, in our face, clearly negative. You are not yet pinpointing who might have been the source of the violence. That's not what you are doing yet. Whether it was A or B, the truth is that the violence perpetrated is not in our national interest. It's against the letter and spirit of the Kumasi Declaration. So a condemnation of that sort, it's in order. What you can't do is to specify an individual or a group and charge them when you don't have a findings of a professional investigation. Now, beyond that, see, this selective amnesia that we are talking about, it cuts across the political divide. There are recent examples and there are past examples. I'm talking Fourth Republic. If we have to go beyond Fourth Republic, I can give you 1 million examples. And those who will lose are on the side of Sam, my brother Sammy. But I won't do that because that would distort the trend of discussion. But to restrict ourselves to the Fourth Republic, and in recent times, I haven't heard any NDC leader complain about things that some of their people have said in terms of violence, even relative to the registration that we had recently. People who said they were ready to resist with their blood to ensure that people who didn't speak a particular language or did not live in a particular location, according to their opinion or views, will not register in a particular constituency. Public, your website published it. We've read it 1,000 times here. I haven't heard any NDC person indicate that that was unbecoming of a parliamentary candidate, of a political party that they belong to. I can go back when Yeti Mason asked for NDC people to organize macho men because he thought the NPP had organized macho men and fight, slap, and make us slap you. I haven't heard it when Tony Edus made the point that the kingdoms are built in the battlefield and that your franchise can be protected through fight in the battlefield. I haven't heard any of them complain. And as I'm giving you only a few examples, okay? Even the late Professor Mills made a statement to the effect that if the security agencies and the government of the day is unable to check certain tendencies he considered negative and detrimental to the integrity of the election process. Listen to what he said. Let me be honest. with you. I will continue to insist on peaceful elections. But I must warn the NPP government that they cannot and must not take the patience and diplomacy of the leadership of the NDC and indeed of the entire opposition for granted. President Kufuor cannot pretend to be unaware of that, all that is going on. He must call his people to order. I appeal to President Kufuor to create the atmosphere and the environment for free, fair, peaceful, and transparent elections and enable the EC through a policy of both non-interference in its activities and the timeous and adequate provision of resources to conduct the elections. There is a growing evidence of anger, dissatisfaction, and frustration among our supporters. And as a leader, I cannot ignore their justified concerns as they see clear attempts to manipulate the election. If we do not take care, there may come a time when we will not be able to contain the anger.
The question is the
please,
platform.
What is this? What is the platform? You talk to the platform at Kumasi, where the guest people, the late, are sitting, and you go out there and talk to the masses. Effect is the same. Perhaps at the Kumasi one, if you don't talk that way, then there's an element of hypocrisy in what you are doing. If you go and talk nice talk, diplomacy, at Kumasi declaration, so that you look good, Mr. Nice, and then you move from there the next day and go on the masses platform where thousands and thousands of years and eyes are upon you, and you go and make a statement, and you tell me your Mr. Nice at Kumasi can be reconciled with the Mr. Non-Nice at the platform. Come on, boy, let's cut out that.
Is it Mr. Non-Nice or an indication or a demonstration of willingness to compromise?
No, but that's the point I'm making. You show the willingness to compromise on the Kumasi platform so that you look nice, Mr. Nice. Then immediately from there, you go to the platform where the masses, the thousands of Ghanaians are watching and listening. And you go and agitate them. How do you reconcile the two? Consistency is important. But I'm sorry you didn't let me finish. He said, there may come a time when we will not be able to contain the anger and frustration of our people. How is that going to be done?
All right.
Come on, let's cut out this thing.
It's time to have
hypocrisy is becoming a virtue in our body politic. That's what we have done. We've turned hypocrisy into a virtue.
Sorry, but I must hear
politics.
Dr. Park now. Now, Dr. Park, particularly listening to the two sides, because this has to do with NDC and NPP. Listening to the two sides and their reactions to this development and situating it, within the signing of the Kumasi Declaration.
You mean within the context of the recent development in Kumasi?
Exactly.
Well, I think that I must first start by stating a few observations that I have made myself. And I think that it won't be fair to suggest that perhaps we should not factor in the personalities involved, at least even from a distance. When you are dealing with a sitting member of parliament who also has other responsibilities within the context of his own political party, going on a house-to-house campaign, and then an incident ensues where some people are hurt and some are in a hospital. So naturally, when you have a development like this with guns, which we all know shouldn't easily be available to the ordinary citizen, then people are bound to ask questions as to why anybody, be it even an unknown member of an enthusiast of a particular political party or a candidate, would be in the procession wielding a gun. So I think just even on the surface level of curiosity alone, the fact that this happened within the context and within range of a member of parliament must raise questions. And I think that those are legitimate.
But people have a right to own a gun.
Yes, they do. The point is the context within which this occurred. Now, what has also worried me greatly about this issue is the very quick political undertones that it has taken. I saw a press release and I saw a press statement which was issued by my senior Yabu Abiyansamwa. In fact, when I was in Commonwealth first year, he was the JCR president of a Kwafu Hall.
Oh, I see.
And he actually stated in that submission that he made at the press statement that the MP was shot at. And that caught my attention. I mean, and that is why perhaps I agree with Senior Kwekubaku that there is a need to investigate. But when you have party functionaries, you know, addressing press conferences and making specific references like the MP was shot at, when we now know that he wasn't even that close where the actual shooting took place, then you begin to wonder whether very quickly we cannot say that what happened in Kumasi was not even worth the symbolic value. I mean, how do you say that the MP was shot at when we now know that he wasn't even supposedly close to there, he was in the shop? So you see, my particular concern is the way these crimes, because this is a criminal activity. It is a crime. Nobody has the right, under any circumstance, to shoot another human being. I mean, what I heard was that they said the fellow who is in critical condition shot in the air. He shot in the air. Did he shoot another human being? Why did he have to be manhandled and shot to the extent that he's almost in the process of losing his life? And if he survives, likely he'll be paralyzed. So you see, this sense of vengeance and retribution, that is what takes us back to the role of leadership. You see, leaders, as I've said to you before, have the capacity to direct and influence the conduct and behavior and even the thinking of their followers. So that if you belong to a particular grouping where your leader adopts a very aggressive posture and has a context where perhaps he may even have been better served in withdrawing a statement that a lot of people have said set the tone for violent conduct and behavior and the promotion of violence, then when these things are beginning to happen, you have no choice but to ask yourself whether they are taking the cue from that pronouncement. This is not to say that the leader himself even may have meant what his followers are interpreting to be what he said. But you see, the thing about language is that it's subject to interpretation. And depending on your level and your circumstances in society, the way you personalize the call or a statement made by somebody you respect or somebody you see as having influence over you, including your thinking, would vary. And so I feel that bringing it all back to the peace pact, I honestly thought that Nana Akufo-Addo would have used that platform to actually withdraw the All That Be Done statement. And he would have won maximum respect.
The statement he has explained to you what he meant.
I just explained to you.
It is just that his critics don't want to take his explanation.
I'm asking a simple question. What do you understand by All That Be Done? Is there any other explanation of All That Be Done than what we all know it is? And that is where the interpretation
What do you know
in.
it to mean? That you should kill?
As far as I am concerned, All That Be Done means all death is death, which means that regardless of what you do, you are going to die someday, and therefore, perhaps you shouldn't even be worried about the circumstances that will cause your death. I mean, it is a call to recklessness. It is very destructive to society, because we don't want a society where people will say, of course, if I go and engage in a robbery, I am going to die at the end of the day anyway, so I should just as well go and do it now, and if I die, I die. Is that the type of attitude that we want to propagate in the society?
refers us to, a number of examples where all the parties are guilty.
Yes,
so,
I agree.
So must we, at this platform, at the Kumasi Declaration platform, be exacting from all of them, denouncement, first of all, a retraction and an apology before?
Samson, what would it have taken away from Nana Akufo-Addo if he hadn't been accusatory? He was the only one who was directly and specifically accusatory, when the process was supposed to be reconciliatory. And you see, symbolism is important. So when you go to a peace pact, and then you go and accuse your opponents, naturally, you expect them to respond. And of course, they then have to come out and list instances where they feel that you have incited your rank and file, including your other high-profile officers.
From the little I know from my professional practice as a lawyer, if you are going into a negotiation, mediation, or arbitration, the parties ought to bring forth their concerns. It is on the basis of that that you now look for a solution.
Those are negotiations that happen behind the scenes. I mean, you know the way the UN functions. You know that there are a lot of other issues across the globe where leaders have fought. We know, if you look at the African continent, we look at the Rwandan situation and other parts of the continent where we've had issues and they've been able to resolve them. They always have the talk behind closed doors. When they come out, they present a common front. So failing to do that and deviating from what was the norm certainly caused people to see him as the bullseye. I mean, he didn't have to do it that way. Do you understand? But my particular problem is this point that Nana Akomia made about impunity. I agree. There is such impunity in this country to the extent that people are raiding the police headquarters when a politician makes a statement and is being hauled in for questioning. And they go on destroying public property with impunity. I mean, we even have instances where media houses are raided, led by party functionaries, because somebody is speaking on a topic or is making a statement that you find distasteful. And in fact, the Forum for Governance and Justice issued a statement, and we even asked the CID to investigate the raiding of Asempa FM, the processes and the circumstances that led to the discharge of Bobby Ansah.
Did you issue?
Let me finish the point.
Did you issue a similar statement for the top radio issue? I'm talking about is it Top or Senare? One of them where you had Kofi Adams on there, and there were people who had to rush in there, leading to because somebody allegedly had made.
I don't know whether I had that issue, but I can tell you what else I did when they are watching.
What is the name of that gentleman? The one who was taken to court over fear and alarm, causing fear and alarm. Yes, that's what I'm referring to.
But in any case, when the Yabotin Giant tape came, we called for an investigation. The Maxwell Juma tape we did. And quite recently, and unfortunately, we had argued that the copycat effect is what is causing this impunity. Crimes are committed. People behave in ways that should be condemned. We are quiet. We allow it to pass, and others do it. Look at what happened at City FM when my good friend Fabel was on air. And so, some people decided to, come there to show him a lesson. I don't know for what reason he didn't have the right to say what he did. But you see, when we are selective in these kinds of processes, what we end up doing is certainly what Kweku Baku said. We disempower and we make the work of the security agencies very difficult. Right. And we are quick to use the political colorization to protect criminals who should be facing prosecution. Let me finish on impunity. We are in this country where we have sitting members of parliament, independents crossing carpet with impunity in violation of Article 97H. And what have we done about it? So if we are going to lay the blame, let's lay it where it should be, fairly and squarely, and call on all of us to do our very best as good citizens of this republic.
Welcome back. I've got a couple of your text messages here. Kwejo Sakode and Kumasi Rai Samson, when the press is free and every man is able to read, then all is safe for Ghanaians. Idrisu A.B. Fuseni writes, in fact, if we really want peace before, during, and after the elections, then we should vote for His Excellency, the President John Dramani Mahama. Kwesi in Wale Wale, right? Justice precedes peace. Thank you. Manche Bruce II, Takrade, writes, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. If we continue to cry for peace without talking about justice and fairness, then I am afraid that the so-called Kumasi Accord will become another 9-day wonder. Thank you very much. You can send your text messages to 1422 and 1760. You can also send me an email to newsfile@myjoyonline.com. You can also post your messages at our Facebook wall, Joy 997 FM. Back to you, Nana. I'm taking some 3 minutes of a reaction from you from what we have discussed so far.
Yeah, thank you. Kweku Baku has adequately exposed the propaganda that Sami Okujeto wanted to inflict on us. So I'll move away from there. But you see, the hypocrisy is just, it's almost comical. The selectivity. Sami Okujeto, even when he was quoting statements by people, could still not resist being selective. My brother, Dr. Apak, see, I was careful not to narrate the events as I have heard them, because it will be my version, or my eyewitnesses' version. And I'd hope that Dr. Apak would move away from that. While he was blaming somebody for carrying a gun, he said that what he has heard is that the victim shot in the air. How do you know he shot in the air? So let's wait for the official version of the police.
I thought he was asking a question when he he made a general statement that no one has a right to shoot in the country, even though I thought that, I mean, this is not the season to talk about it, but that's not exactly
That is
correct.
agreeable. But then you said one person shot in the air, and why was another person shot at? How do you know that? So let's wait for the official events after proper investigation. But you see, the problem, as I have tried to tell you, is the impunity. You have a situation in this country today when people perpetuate violence. Nothing is done about it. When you talk about it, they say that it is you who is inciting violence. That is what is happening in this country. You have the situation in Chiriponi, where an NDC man in an NDC t-shirt shot a gun 5 times into a crowd of NPP supporters. Nothing is done. On film, nothing is done. Look at the situation in Akwitia. Your station was giving live reports where NDC mob were going around the polling stations, attacking the agents of the NPP. Broad daylight. You were giving live reports. Nothing was done. So when somebody says that if these things continue, then people will be forced to defend themselves. That all die be die. You say that it is him who is rather creating the problem. It's a symptom of the problem that has been allowed to go on. And when we talk about impunity, Samson, nobody can forget how this nation has been gripped, besieged by atrocities committed by NDC foot soldiers. You remember what they did? They would seize toilets, they would seize lorry parks, they would seize public offices, NHIS, NYEP, national mobilization. They would seize toll collection booths like they did at Adomi. They would sack DCs. The DC for Yendi was chased out and he couldn't even go to his own district. They would ransack tender meetings at the regional office in Tamale. They would attack their own ministers. As Okujeto sitting here, how many times he hasn't been threatened with attack by his own foot soldiers? The Ashanti regional minister was chased by his own foot soldiers. He left one shoe behind. When they went to give him the shoe, he said they should take them away. He doesn't like them. Akura Danswa was attacked by NDC mob during a live press conference at the Ministry of Information when Okujeto was sitting there. The Deputy Minister for Education was threatened with death by her own people. She had to make a report to the police. You see, so you have this impunity against they themselves. Before you come to Chiriponi and all of that, nothing is done. So when people warn of the danger that if these things continue, you are going to have people taking the law into their hands to defend themselves. They say, oh, it is you, Mom, who is perpetuating violence. That is a situation that we have in this country.
Sammy, let me hear from you quickly.
At the end of the day, let's be resolved that we will not allow ourselves to be subjected to mob rule. That we will allow the forces of law and order to work. That the president, as the head of national security, would ensure that this is done.
Okay, I think
that is all that everybody is
that's a good
asking
point from which Samuel Kujetu comes in.
Very interesting, Samson. When I was listening to Nana Komia go on and on and on
about how they attack,
about how people are being are making calls to violence,
for you.
and the security services are not taking action, I thought that he will have ended his list with Nana Akufo-Addo, who made many incendiary and violent remarks. Yeah, come for etiwakra ya chere bibi kakra woho, all die be die. It's not been picked up. It's not been investigated. So I thought that you will have added that on your list. It is very interesting when Kweku Baako and Nana Komia say that there's too much hypocrisy in this country and hypocrisy is becoming a virtue. And yet, they don't see the hypocrisy in Akufo-Addo's statement in Kumasi. When Akufo-Addo cites only Yaboatijan tape and Esutifi South.
Okay.
Only
so
those
kindly
two.
speak up for me.
Only those two instances. That is not hypocrisy. That is not selectivity. This attempt at wanting to play the ostrich and then launch into equalization under the guise of wanting to appear, general and wanting to be a good analyst would not wash with some of us. We are too. It's not sophisticated enough.
But you said people should have made general statements at Kumasi.
I said if
now you are worried about general statements.
Nana, I didn't interrupt you when you were speaking.
No, I'm asking you a question.
I made the point that if Nana Akufo-Addo, wanting to cite examples, had cited as examples from across the board, then we would commend him. We would compliment him for making those statements. Or he could have been general, like President Rawlings did, like President Kufuor did, like Park Wesindum did.
Now you are condemning general statements.
I'm saying, no, I'm talking about here. I'm talking about here.
Okay,
you and Kweku Bako.
Please allow him to make
you
his point.
and Kweku Bako.
He's got 2 minutes to finish.
What Nana Akufo-Addo did in Kumasi, is it hypocritical or not? Was it being selective or not? If that is how you want our political leaders to go and be speaking, fine. Come and pledge for peace. You select one side and you go after them. That is how you think that our politics should be played, and that is what you think that is the sincere politics. It's not hypocritical politics. And you want us to applaud you for that because you are a good analyst. You are a mature analyst. Fine, we would applaud you for that. And let us see how our politics goes. Then this point about internal violence on ourselves. At Nana Akufo-Addo's primaries, what happened to Paula Foko? MPP members on MPP. We can all cite examples. The Suhum primaries. What happened? There was a bloodbath. MPP primaries.
There's a bloodbath.
So this business of wanting to portray another political party as, that is why I made a point that what we have to condemn, we must condemn. Whether it is from our party, whether it is our friends, whether it is people we support that they win this election or not. When they make statements which are reprehensible, let's be man enough to condemn it. Let us not shoot into equalization. And I still stand by the point. And I don't think I'm being reckless as a deputy minister of state when I say that, when I ask the question that what were guns and machetes doing on a house to house? It's a fair question to ask. Any decent person will ask these questions, because I go, and you started by asking me about my campaign in North Town, and I told you that I don't carry guns and machetes when I'm going on house to house in North Town. That one too I can't ask, and when I ask, I'm an irresponsible deputy minister of state. I mean, what is this country coming to?
Okay. I'll take 3 minutes from you, Kweku.
Let's senior start.
Yes, Kweku, 3 minutes from you.
I'm not sure anybody has described Samia as a reckless.
But you were alluding to that for a minister of state.
So you are interpreting.
You see interpretation.
Yes, so you are interpreting. And then I will be fair with that, because I have not, and I wouldn't do that, to look into your face and listeners and viewers and tell the world that you are a reckless and irresponsible deputy minister. I wouldn't do that, and you know that. So please, don't put words in my mouth. No, in addressing the Kumasi thing, I began by pointing out the selectivity that informed Sami's quote of Nana Akufo-Addo's Presby Church thing. And I proceeded from that basis to say that let's always balance. So really, I didn't deal with Nana Akufo-Addo's thing. And if you remember, I proceeded to say that that thing cuts across the political divide. And that there are political elements. I even pointed to Nana that is, I've heard some of their people also making their own judgmental statements. I heard of conclusions to be arrived by the police. So strictly speaking, generally, I did exactly what Sami is saying should be done. I avoided going specific. He set the tone for that situation. I still insist that at this hour, it would be in our interest, collective national interest, if we waited for the police findings. It isn't as if police findings will be sacrosanct. No, that's not what I'm suggesting. But at least it gives us a basis for an informed reaction and discussion of the issue, because they are entrusted with that statutory duty of doing some professional investigation. That's the point I am making. It will be helpful. Any other approach will lead to a polarized, a highly polarized, politicized discourse. And I'm saying that is one of the surest way of undermining professionalism when it comes to such an issue. Bottom line, what happened in Kumasi should be condemned at this stage. That's what we should do as a collective entity, a nation. Let's condemn that. It's not worth it. And it's so sad that it came 24 hours after the Kumasi declaration.
Should we hear the presidential candidates?
I would love if I heard them. I'll be honest with you. Because at this stage, we're not asking them to allocate blame or find people guilty. But the incident itself ought to be condemned. It helps. I'm not naive. Let me be honest with you. I'm not out there thinking that that alone is a solution or a cure to that ailment. But let's hear them. Because in the Kumasi declaration, they have captured it there, that they would unreservedly condemn such things and all the rest. So let them meet that letter and spirit of the Kumasi declaration.
All right.
Yes, very, very quickly, I think that Nana Kumia got me wrong. When I made the reference to the shot at, I was actually making that to state how this issue has been politicized so quickly, to the extent that Yawabia Samoa actually said that. He indicated, now I would advise all of us to read it. I read it online, the press statement that he read. He actually indicated, apportioned blame very fully, blaming the NDC and saying that Napo was shot at. So that was the point I was trying to make.
But did you hear also the NDC blame the NPP, and they actually telling the police to their face that this issue, they cannot say that this issue is not political?
In fact, I heard the the secretary of the Ashanti region, Yamin, this morning on a radio station. Yeah. And in fact, the Napo was on the other side. And the way he explained it, he was actually asking that this issue should be seen as non-political. As of when I was listening to him on OKFM,
then he changed his mind.
He had said
he was
very clearly.
Actually preaching when
he's changed his mind.
Exactly.
Distorted interpretation of the all die be die. Now if the police and the police won't take action or police won't work, then they will deal with the issue.
In fact, you can find the transcript. As of this morning, when I heard him, he was saying that the issue should be handled in a way that would not cause any more ruffling of feathers.
Then they can do with the issue.
I mean, this morning, okay. I listened to him on
let's allow Apak to finish his
point. But the point I'm trying to make is that he had even indicated that he agreed that Nopo was not within range, and that he agrees that this may have, I mean, he would go along with the suggestion that it may have happened on his blind side. Right? He was very, almost pointing to the direction that he saw this issue in a way that should not be politicized, and that he felt that there was a need for us to all come out and condemn it. If it is bad sort of thing. And I think that underscores the type of behavior that we should all be advocating. Sure. If it is bad, it is bad. Let all of us condemn it. Violence should never be the basis for us to settle our political differences, no matter what. Well, we need peace, unity, and stability to be able to enjoy the benefits of our democracy. And if we destroy it, then what is the whole point of this whole exercise?
All right, this show is brought to you by the kind sponsorship of MTN and Hisense. Yes, get 2 amazing phones and pay for just one in the MTN 1-to-1 or 1+1 promo for only 999 Ghana cedis. You get a sleek Samsung Galaxy S2 with 600 minutes free airtime and 1,200 free SMSs and 3 gigabytes free data plus a free Samsung internet phone also with 100 megabytes of data for free. It's one for you and one you can give to that special person in your life in the MTN 1+1 promo. Visit the nearest MTN outlet for yours today. Remember, this offer is available while stocks last. Life is always richer with MTN. MTN everywhere you go. Do you want to enjoy this season in comfort and style? Do you want your home to be the preferred destination for family and friends? Then Hisense should be your preferred brand. Hisense is at it again this Christmas with a promotion called the Hisense Plus and Take Home promotion. All you need to do is to buy anything from Hisense showroom. Thereafter, you will locate a Christmas tree in there. Get close, pluck from the exciting gifts hanging on it, and it's yours. You can pluck away toasters, kettles, microwave ovens, blenders, tabletop fridges, sandwich makers, LED or LED, LCD, digital TVs, freezers, branded Hisense paraphernalia, cash, etc. Our products come in different sizes and colors. Remember, Hisense products are energy efficient, offers free installation and delivery services, and you enjoy a whopping 5-year warranty. This is the first in Ghana and in Africa. So what are you doing? Rush and pluck this Christmas away with Hisense products and lovely goodies. Locate our showroom at East Legon adjacent Ghana Link. Call 0302 543 555 or 0277 803133 or any of their dealers throughout the country. Hisense, innovation for life. I got a couple more text messages. Jerry in China writes, Ghana is not worth dying for when NDC is in power. Bombo Richmond writes, Sami, ask Dr. Park whether he is actually on the cause of justice because he has never cried justice for any opposition party. Why so? Don't be too political. Kweku, your contribution to Ghana's democracy is very great. I like your submissions. Lava Kwabenya writes, I never knew NPP and NDC supporters were this destructive until now. If we love Ghana, let's vote them both out. This must be coming from a PPP supporter. Kobe in Accra writes, if NDC thinks they will create confusion in Kumasi and go scot-free, they lie bad. We will face them. Okay, sorry, I'm unable to take that one. You say you shouldn't make that mistake. Bismarck answer writes, if it is right for Akufo-Addo to cite examples of violent talk by his opponents, he should also cite examples of violence from the other side. We'll move on to the next issue to be discussed, and I have an announcement I'm going to read free of charge for those who issued it. This announcement, the headline is Editors Forum Ghana. And it also carries another headline, sub-headline, warning, minors should not vote. And it reads, you may have registered as a voter, but if your age is below 18 years, do not vote because underage voting is illegal and you can be arrested and prosecuted. Parents, please stop your children from voting if they are below 18. Any person under 18 years who votes may be arrested and prosecuted. This message is an initiative of the Editors Forum Ghana in collaboration with the National Commission for Civic Education, the Electoral Commission of Ghana, and also by the particular media house that will be airing this particular information. Now, this is what I say is illegal. And sorry if you hear that from me. And I thank God that I have a Supreme Court judge who agrees with me. Justice Dosey also agrees that it is illegal to attempt to stop anybody you perceive to be a minor from voting on election day, because the law only gave you permission to stop them at the point of registration. After that, it's a done deal. How do we solve this problem? The problem is that still you have minors on the register. How do we go about it? I'll start with you, Dr. Park.
Yes, Samson, thank you so much. First of all, I think that we must take the collective blame for how this even came to be. we were all in this country. We knew the processes. Various political parties had their agents. We had professionals who were there dispensing the national responsibility of compiling a biometric voters register. And we knew the criteria. So the first point is how did this even come to be? Was it a collusion between those who were there representing political parties and the registration officers? Or was it an oversight or a lack of attention? But I mean, when you see, I mean, my eldest daughter is 12 years old. And I can't see how anybody would not notice that she is 12 and would allow her to register. And I would not let her do that. So who are the parents who allowed their underage wards to register? I think that this is another area where we have been dishonest with ourselves as a people. Because if indeed we were to be honest with ourselves and were to follow the guidelines and the procedures and the processes, and even to allow the checks that were to come from the agents of political parties, as well as even officers of the Electoral Commission present, then this should not have happened. So we are now saddled with a situation either as a result of dishonesty or a lack of diligence. What do we do?
My question is, what solution do you prefer?
The law certainly has no role to play, as Justice Dorsey has said. So we now have to adopt moral persuasion. That is the only option available, because the law is not going to work. So what we have to do is to engage in a very vigorous program of dissuading those minors through trying to reach their parents. If possible, if we had some sense of the areas where the numbers are greatest, then perhaps we can do targeted and much more specific moral education to dissuade the minors and encourage their parents to prevent them from exercising a franchise that they don't qualify to, but by law, they now have the right to vote. And we can't do anything about it. So I think this is where perhaps we should be calling on moral society in particular. You know, I would like to see the big bishops and what do you call them, pastors and evangelists. They should talk about this in the church. Right. They should bring this to the public attention. Radio stations, media outlets like yourselves, we can mount a very vigorous educational campaign to prevent the minors from voting on election day.
That is what I say is illegal. Kweku, what is the way out? Because it will only
dissuade them from voting.
Only take a court of law to stop someone who has already registered legally on the roll from voting.
Agreed. Do we have enough time to do that? For somebody to, first of all, I don't know how many there are in terms of the quantity on the voters' roll. I do not know. So I cannot, explain.
The EC suggests there are a lot.
Number.
There are many.
Do they have a number for us? They don't have a figure for us, but that itself is a problematic. That is problematic. We must be told that. Then I could determine whether it will have an impact on the overall results. But whatever it is, even if it's one, it's illegal. That we concede. And I share the point Dr. Park just made. How did it happen? We are all part of the problem. The party officials who were on the ground, the EC officials who allowed it, because there are certain things you must produce to be able to register. Did they produce all those things? Were they convincing? So we are all part of the problem. And I tend to believe that there's a element of collusion somewhere along the line between party officials and EC officials, and even some parents who, for all you know, are party stalwarts, not in terms of leadership, but activists, passionate and emotional about their commitment to their parties. So it's part of the hypocrisy turned into virtue thing I was talking about. We're all guilty here, and as you're saying, doing this a cure within the judicial process. Do we have time? I doubt. And if you go into court, you must have specifics. You are the lawyer. Are you just going to court with a general rate saying that prevent minors? That's a useless rate. you know, so you don't have the specific. That's why I'm wondering if the EC could have given us the figure, given us the identities and all that. We would not publish pictures of minors. I think it's even against our ethics. It's a real tightrope. Yeah. Because even we are in the media cannot go. It's a crime, but we are disabled by our ethics from putting their pictures out there. So this is a terrible thing for us. I hope sincerely that it is not enough to undermine the integrity of the Ghanaian election system, because we've done very well for ourselves as an election, you know, democratic system in terms of our elections. So I'm hoping sincerely, but we should bow our heads down in shame as a collective. We're all guilty in this respect.
Now, Sami, I don't know if you see things from the way I suspect that because of these announcements that are going on election day, you are likely going to have people who attempt physically to stop people they perceive to be minors from voting. And you can imagine what that will bring us. What do we do?
Yeah, honestly, Samson, that's my greatest fear. You know, that vigilante citizens would want to, you know, prevent people they perceive to be minors, prevent them from voting. Though, for now, the minors seem to have the law on their side. But even with the law on their side, we must also be conscious of the Constitution. The Constitution has given the universal adult suffrage of 18 years and above. So even the legal issues, I'm not too sure is cast in stone. You have the Constitution which says 18 years and above. So those who even seek to prevent them will say that, look, we also have the law on our side. We are coming under the Constitution, which does not allow people who are below 18 to vote. And then the others will say that, yes, the problem will be proof. Yes, yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And you can't, as an individual, enforce that Constitution.
That's the point.
Exactly. You know, so there's clearly recipe for chaos. And I think that our institutions should become a bit more activist. I would have wished the Electoral Commission took steps, because they are seized with the data.
That's right.
They know out of the 26,015 polling stations, they know where these,
that's right,
because some of the pictures are so clear, you know, so you can narrow down, and then you take legal steps to expunge these names. I think they should have done that. They had enough time, because honestly, when you look at the statistics, it is not adding up. It's not making sense, because per our demographics, the voting population should be 50% of the population. And if, as a country, our current population census indicates that we are not more than 25 million, and you have 14 million on the register, because if we are not more than 25 million, we should not be having more than 13, maximum 12.5 million people on the register. So we haven't cured the bloated thing. The reason why we set out to achieve this biometric, you know, we went biometric so that we would address the bloated nature of our register, because the biometric system does not cure the minor mischief and then the foreigners' mischief, because foreigners, you can take their thumbprints, minors, you can still take their thumbprints. The biometric system only guarantees you removal of double registration, so that if there are multiple registration, that one it will detect and delete it. So we only cured one of the three mischiefs.
Impersonation
impersonation, the foreigners, and then the minors. We haven't addressed that, because honestly, with a 14 million, you know, voters register, it's a bit on the high side. I mean, unless our population census is not accurate, then it makes sense.
Okay. Nana, you guys have been having meetings with the EC at IPAC level. I heard recently that the EC was going to court to get a certain order to be able to delete certain names from the register. It didn't include the minors. Is that what it is?
Well, the situation with the minors is a difficult one. You don't know where to start. I am surprised that the EC, sitting at their head office, has managed to detect that people are minors when they could not detect it at the registration centers. Because it's at the registration center that the EC officials came direct face-to-face contact with the people.
Should have stopped them.
And that is where they should have asked them questions and try to dissuade them. Now, if the EC officials have allowed the registration and the registration is complete, the legal process for voting is complete. Now, if you sit at head office and you are looking at pictures and you say, by what you are seeing, they are minors, I mean, why are you going to cure it?
What happened to the challenge process post even registration?
Yes, during exhibition and all.
Something might have gone wrong.
Particular police stations, all of them were compromised. You know, you do it, I also
makes
do
no
it.
sense.
It reminds me of some polling stations in their strongholds where when results are declared, all of them jump in jubilation.
You know,
CPP,
right.
MPP, police,
And
that's
you see,
everybody.
I mean, on the face value, there's a procedure that you can challenge. Now, if you have 500 challenges in a polling station, how are you going to deal with that?
No, post exhibition, you still does the challenge process terminate?
The challenge process is if an agent believes this is a minor, you fill a challenge form that so and so I believe is a minor.
Yes.
So there has to be further investigations after the registration. Now, if you have 500 of them at a polling station, you're not going to be able to challenge it. So it's a deficiency that is almost inbuilt.
And Koku is saying that the same process could have been repeated during exhibition, because that's part of the purpose.
Yes, but the exhibition, even the people who, genuine people above 18, how many of them went and checked? But you see,
but that's another issue.
Also remember that even as we speak, not all the have been given out.
That's part of the
you
problem.
see, for me, there's a fundamental issue that we should deal with as a nation.
Election cycle.
There are gaps in our data collection as a country and in our law enforcement. In countries with better administered systems, everybody would have a birth certificate.
Yeah.
So when you go and you say you are 18, it will be known. At the very least, if there's doubt, they ask you to bring your birth certificate. But here's a country where I am sure many people don't bother to have birth certificates. We could have used this registration process to attempt to cure that. If we had said, the EC had announced in conjunction with the parties, that if you are 18, or you believe you are 18, you must bring your birth certificate. It would have provided an opportunity for people to go and acquire birth certificates, at which point they will go through the verification process. It's like our tax system. There's a requirement that you must show tax clearance certificate before you are able to accede to certain services, like standing for elections. Go to the revenue service during election time. There's a mad rush of candidates because of that barrier that you must acquire it. So everybody rushes there to acquire tax clearance certificates. If we could have used the opportunity of the registration to say that people must have birth certificates if there's dispute about their ages. We didn't. The people have gone through the registration. If you just look at the pictures and you say they are 18, now you have to prove that they are not 18.
So if the current approach is wrong, what must be done?
For the future, after this election, we will have another 2 years to think through this issue. So it doesn't become another 2 years we'll be complaining.
Yes.
Well, you know.
You're still on Joy 99.7 FM. You are on Joy News Channel on Multi TV, and this is your most authoritative news analysis show, Newsfile. My guest, Abdul Malik Kwekubaku Jr., Dr. Clement Park, Nana Kumia, and Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa. And we will move on now. I was thinking that we could finish with this election matters also. So if we could bring in the Arthur Kennedy tape as well, deal with that, and then move on to the GIPC scandal. And I'm sure that listeners and viewers may have heard in the course of the week, I think it started on Wednesday or so, when a tape was making the rounds. And on that tape, Dr. Arthur Kennedy, a former communications, part of the communications team of Nana Akufo-Addo for the 2008 elections, was captured as saying certain things. Let's listen to this, and then we'll come back to discuss the issue.
Generally, I mean, I get into trouble because I said much more in our tattoo. And property in the number 2012, the kind of way no home or what Wabama and Propumpo in there or what Wama in our Tanda and us. Obi away and in them, cut and then message on Yanu Park. And you heard it here, 2008, Nephew was Central Region. The chairman is not among. Even whom I saw, we are winning all the 19 seats. Hey, 19. Most of them are Yama, I didn't control, oh, don't worry about my 19 seats. Yan can no parent train and one. Assemble have a view. In the Alma was at the youth. Alma was at the youth. When your candidate comes out, not the Onkoya, that's the candidate. Ehanaha Onkoye, Yanyano Bibi. And no candidate, you were original Tamana. Man, yes, that's the original Taman. Ehanaha Yayan, Onye, Yanyamoye, Ihunanadwa, and the same sentence. That is the spirit of FDP. Man, yes, may go lose you. As a winter, since we went to this republic, no incumbent president has lost re-election. The argument in the best. That's the first problem. No government has gone to re-election with oil. I know to clarify. That is the problem. The second thing is that the meeting no here. Only there. They meet Mutu about 2012. Mutu Rena Mekata. Now I'm sorry 2 a.m. Now we can do one football result na you maybe send 2 questions. Between Nanado now President Mills. One on winning Greater Accra. One on winning Central Region. If was the same person listening for both, the person will be president. I am telling you about election strategy. One will go out with him. Your work is to my papa. So there were a lot of internal dynamics. And I'm here to tell you that the Juma or the hand on Oshun. I'm telling you something. This is political strategizing teaching.
That is the voice of Dr. Arthur Kennedy, and this is a bit of an extended version of the tape that was making the rounds. And I'll start with you, Nana Kumia. Why is Dr. Arthur Kennedy saying those who interpret what he said to mean he had cast doubts on the NPP's ability to win elections in 2012 are suffering dementia?
Well, but that's exactly the NDC's point. You know, that Atake seems to be ruling out an NPP victory, which is a very, very strange interpretation. Because just listening to what Arthur Kennedy says on the tape, you cannot come to that conclusion.
He says no sitting government has done 1 term. It's been difficult in the Fourth Republic.
I'm coming to that.
And so that with oil.
I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that. When you listen to the words of Arthur Kennedy and you decide that what he is saying is ruling out a defeat for the NDC, then you will be laughing, you'll be tickling yourself and laughing. Because Arthur Kennedy didn't say any such thing at all. Arthur Kennedy is exhorting his supporters, the NDC members, the NPP members, not to be complacent. You heard him say that we have work to do. You know, with the massive failures that have attended upon the NDC's government's record, the Woyome scandal that, you know, scandalized this nation for months, and all the other things, people tended to think that it would be the victory of the NPP would be an easy one. So as a party leader, speaking to the members, he says, it will not be easy. Don't be complacent. We still have work to do. That, look at the record. The record shows that no incumbent government has lost re-election, at least since the Fourth Republic, which is true. And he's using that record to exhaust his supporters. But that is the record. Don't let that record be repeated. Of course, you could always say that even though it is true that no incumbent government has lost re-election in the Fourth Republic, it is also true that every incumbent government loses 1 or 2 percentage points at the next election. That is also true. Rawlings, in the 1996 re-election, he lost a couple of percentage points. Kufuor in 2004 lost a couple of percentage points in the re-election in 2004. You lose 1 or 2 or 3%. Now, the NDC got 50%. So, on the face of the record, when they lose 1 or 2 percentage points, that will bring them below 50. So that is also true. But Atake is interested in jazzing up the supporters to work hard. And he said that, look, aside from being the face of this record of incumbents winning, they also have oil, which of course gives you a better opportunity to have a good record as far as your development of governance and welfare is concerned. I mean, since Atake spoke, we've all known that the oil revenues have had no impact. That the welfare of our people is getting worse. We heard what the Afro Barometer said about welfare and about the economy. Look at our city. It's in tatters and all of that. So we've seen since then that the oil revenues have not been used to maximize welfare to any serious degree. But this is a person who was interested in telling his supporters not to be complacent. And he's trying to use supporting data to ginger them up. I would do the same. I may not have used those examples, but I would, anytime I meet NPP supporters, I tell them it is still hard work and vigilance at the on-polling day. And everybody must speak to their friend about voting for the NPP. Don't assume that because the failures of the NDC government are so monumental, we would automatically win. That you should be on the ball. And that's all that he was trying to do. Now, if you say that because he was telling them about the incumbent not losing and so on, so Atake is ruling out an NPP victory, then you have to confront the fact that there are stalwarts in the NDC who have stated categorically that the NDC should not be retained by Ghanaians and that the NDC would lose the elections.
So? Who in the NDC said so?
Oh, members of parliament.
Who?
Tenya Unu has said so.
Tenya Unu, we know, is not an NDC member any longer.
Oh, when he said so, he's still a member of parliament. He's a member of the NDC.
We know he's disgruntled.
So?
It's a matter of sour grapes.
Okay. You don't like Tenya Unu, no problem. The founder, the person who founded the party for today, the Okuja Tozer code to be a running around in it. The founder.
You don't know his problems with the party?
Oh, Samson. I don't know his motives. The man has said categorically that they will lose. That they started losing the election.
The same man has said that the chances the John can win on his own rights now.
Oh, he can win. Okay, so from losing this, now tend to can win. But you see, this is the founder of the party. You see, so if you say that Atake, you are happy, is a secret recording, secret tape, you know, it's not a secret. You're speaking to supporters in the open. And if you say that because he said that the incumbents haven't lost yet, and so you are happy and you are saying that Atake says NPP will lose, you are fooling yourself.
All right.
Because if we are going to go by that, the person who founded your party has also said that you will lose the election.
Okay. Now,
the small point that I forgot. This Okujeto made this point about hotlines being established and there's some gendarmes in place. I mean, Okujeto, you never stop the mischief.
We have moved on. I pointed out the chronology in which the hotline was announced.
The hotlines have been set up to collate incidents. not to go and bring some.
Okay, we can take that information from the police, from the appropriate institutions.
So report incidents.
Okay,
and there's a line that you can report incidents.
Okay, now some of your critics say that this was supposed to be a big, campaign thing, but it appears it is failing or it's failed.
Failing or failed?
To make the impact, the expected impact.
I'm not too sure about that. I mean, it's been a very good week for the John Mahama campaign. First of all, you had all these international polls, the more credible polls pointing to an NDC victory. You had Africa Confidential.
Yes. My producers want you to speak up.
Oh, sorry. Sounds like I'm talking to my wife.
Tired from the campaign. Okay. He's tired from his campaign. I was watching him on TV and the president introducing him at the rally.
The record of the NDC.
We are
doesn't make you eager to speak about.
We are working very hard, so it's taking a toll on all of us. So you have our hard work.
Don't interpret that. Let's move on.
You have our hard.
No, it's bound to be in Parliament.
You have our hard work.
It's going there.
You have our hard work being confirmed by all these polls.
Which one?
The Africa Confidential poll, the Economics Intelligence Unit,
Confirming
confirming that the Africa Watch also confirming that the NDC is in the lead.
The Economic Intelligence Unit says it will be a closely fought election.
Africa Confidential
but that the NDC is the slight favorite.
Yeah.
Africa Confidential say you would win by 50,000 votes.
Yeah.
Africa Watch also say it's a tie.
Yeah, but I'm making a point that apart from Mr. Obechebi Lamte's Research International, which gave
quick, be serious.
Oh, you don't know?
You mean Obechebi Lamte owes the company?
Oh, you don't know he's a local rep or was the local rep for Research International?
So he owes the company.
You haven't read the background of Research International in Ghana. You don't know that. Okay.
There's a point. You see, people have said, for example, that the Economic Intelligence Unit, the agent here is somebody, and they've tried to tag that person as NDC. But we don't need all of that.
Okay.
That's the point I'm making.
Okay, so let's move on. In respect of Jake and Research International,
let's just be truthful.
Since we cannot say for a fact positively his
Mm-hmm.
status in that organization for now, let's move on without it.
I can state for a fact his relation to that organization. I can state for a fact. It doesn't matter whether present or it's a fact. Okay. I mean, and I'm ready to prove that any day. The point I'm making is that apart from that one, all the polls point to an NDC victory. And it is primarily because this NDC government has worked so hard. It is primarily because the wage bill has more than doubled. The government has focused on putting money in the pockets of Ghanaian workers. It is primarily because in infrastructure, several structures that did not exist before. All these schools and the trees, about 1,700 of them replaced. All these hospitals which were in dilapidated condition, the Tamale Regional Hospital, which was crying for help, has been expanded, has been renovated. Now UDS medical students don't have to go to Konfanochi or Legon for their practicals. They can go to UDS and have it. Because of the fact that we have a candidate who unifies the nation, who doesn't preach violence, who cuts across, who is so affable, very dynamic, hard working. So you have all of this. You have all these factors going for us, and that is why all the polls. And I believe that these polls are not even accurate enough. On the ground, the sense, what we feel.
You say your research says that you will win 9 of the regions.
Our research is that 9 of the regions, 9 out of 10 regions. Our research, the lowest score we've had so far is 52%.
What are you still doing on the campaign trail?
Yeah, because you don't take the people for granted. You don't show any complacency, and these people are working very hard. Every day they come up with something new, some new concoction or the other. The day before yesterday, it was a statesman report, publishing houses of NDC activists.
Yours wasn't nice. Though it was
Yeah,
big.
yeah. I'm told my
It was
house
yellow
was
color.
not nice at all. Felix Kwachi was supposed to have the nicest
You don't
house.
have a house.
I don't own a house. I don't. You know. So
In fact, you are
know,
in court over this matter, so I think
yeah,
you'd
no,
rather
those
proceed
are other
without
matters.
it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean other. Yeah. So.
Taking somebody to court.
But the statesman one, I haven't taken legal action yet. I just laughed over it, you know. But the point is that Arthur Kennedy is not alone. And why I am surprised at Nana Kumia is that even after this tape was made public, Arthur Kennedy is saying he stands by these statements. And I'm also surprised at Arthur Kennedy's own harsh words on people who have interpreted this. First of all, listen to the transcript. I've heard that people have said a lot today. Generally, I get into trouble because I will say it just as it is. So if you are going to say something which is, Nana Kumia says, encouraging the supporters, motivating them to work hard, why is that Arthur Kennedy himself saying he knows he will get into trouble?
But didn't you hear him
He
say
says,
that they have to
generally,
work hard?
I get into trouble because I will say it just as it is.
Because the people were being
So
complacent.
in the NPP, you get into trouble when you speak the truth, when you motivate your supporters. Hey, the NPP, you are intolerant too.
Look, let me tell you something.
I'm giving you. I'm reading the
just one
transcript.
No, allow him.
Since
Allow
Arthur
him.
came
Fine,
in
we
last
agree
stage,
with you. Atake says he'll get into
Yeah.
trouble for saying NPP
Yeah,
will
but
win. It's
since
okay.
Nana,
Atake
please.
made
It's
the
Nana,
okay.
please.
You want us to
Please.
understand that
Please.
Atake says he'll get into trouble because
Nana, note it. I'll give you the
because
opportunity to say
NPP
it.
will win. That's fine.
Oh, no, just a
You
small
know.
point.
No, note it. Note it.
If it was the NDC
so in
that
order,
Atake
so
has
in
made
order
his
for
point,
in
by
order
now-
for Atake not to get into trouble, he should have said that what MPP. I don't even understand you.
But that's
You
what
know,
I'm trying to explain to you.
Generally,
You want me
I
to
get.
explain to
I'm reading the transcript. Generally, I get into trouble because I will say it just as it is. There are a lot of people going about saying that 2012 Ghanaians have regretted and they will vote for us. Some people even think that they will vote for us and also thank us. Anyone who has come to that conclusion, I will ask you to tell him that that's not true, and you heard it here first. Unquote. Then the statement which Arthur Kennedy issued since this tape became public. He himself writes, I said complacency, lack of candor, and too much fondness for money caused us the 2008 elections, and I stand solidly behind those assertions. That is a matter I even want to analyze later, the MPP's fondness for money, but I'll come to that later. That I warned my party that it will be difficult to dislodge the incumbent party, and I stand by that. I urged that we needed to work hard, and I stand by that. So the gentleman confirms the tape. He confirms all these things. He said it will be difficult for the incumbent to be dislodged. He stands by that. He says you people just focus on money. You are not interested in campaigning. You're just so fond of money. He stands by that. So even his post statement confirms the statements that he makes on the tape. And the point I'm simply making is that Arthur Kennedy is only confirming what is a widely held view. There's a certain momentum. John Mahama is cruising to victory. As we speak, the works of Professor Mills were telling when we came to power, you had a situation where the computer to student ratio was 1,000 students to one computer. 1,000 students to one computer. As we speak, we have money to distribute over 100,000 free of charge. We are promising to distribute 400,000 more. These are the things that make a difference in the lives of people. Quality education, providing uniforms, providing exercise books, increasing the capitation grant. It is for these reasons the work
You
on the
haven't paid
ground.
the capitation
Look
grants.
at the road sector. Look at the Tema roads. Look at East Legon roads. Look at the Eastern Corridor roads. Every community is seeing some form of development, you know, and that is why the people of this country are going to vote for the NDC. Nana Kumia talks about Woyome money, and also when it comes to scandals in any administration, I don't know any administration without scandals. What is more important is how you deal with it. Do you attempt a cover-up, or you immediately prosecute? You are seeking to retrieve your money. That is what people will look at, the sincerity of the leadership in rising up to the occasion when these scandals occur. So, as for me, I am not surprised at all about what Arthur Kennedy says. I've listened to him subsequently in interviews where he still stands by this. He has even said that the polls he has seen, contrary to what Nana Akumi has been saying, that 52%, only Nana Akumi has seen that. Dr. Arthur Kennedy is saying that, look, he thinks this election is even going into a second round, and it is so close, he doesn't see the MPP cruising to victory. So he confirms these things. So why the attempt to?
But you must be scared at that forecast, because also the other side of the coin is also true.
Yeah,
that incumbents going into second round is not a comfortable thing to get into.
I agree. That is why I'm saying that if you have somebody who is standing in a subjective position, Arthur Kennedy would wish the MPP wins. He himself has said that, and yet he can't see a clear-cut victory. So he's hoping for a second round. It's just a hope.
All right.
You know, this. If I can quickly, just 1 minute. I mean,
okay.
Rawlins's was fine. Yeah. Rawlins's had concern about an NDC victory. Lose. Then now his latest.
That you are leading the country.
You haven't heard
darkness.
his latest. His latest is that John Mahama has brought a spark.
And have you heard that his latest?
Why are you not choosing? Why are you not choosing Rawlins's latest? You want to be Rawlins of the past. Rawlins's latest says we are winning.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So don't be.
You can't even join your campaign.
Don't be consistent.
Thank you, Sammy. Right in Germany, right? I think Nana Akumi and the MPP are just peeved for not getting the opportunity to manage this oil revenue. At least the NDC has somebody to hold responsible for the 51 million cedis. Ibrahim Abdul Rahman writes, the issue of minors in our voters register indicate that the challenge forms that were filed against people suspected to be minors were not attended to by the EC officials. I think that's an important point to note. Evans in Kumasi writes, there are terms and conditions precedent to every success, including elections. If we do not satisfy them, peace shall elude us. Peace will not happen in a vacuum. And the last one from John Addo, also in Germany. He writes, it's barely a week to this year's general elections. Many Ghanaians live in fear. Invocations of God and Allah through fasting and prayers are going on in the country. Peace rallies are being organized. Peace Council meets every day to deliberate on national issues to ensure peaceful elections. These things do help, but they are not potent solutions. Power sharing is the only realistic and potent solution. DCEs and MCEs should be elected to bring power sharing into reality. Thank you for your long-term solution that you proffer. Now, Abdul Malik.
Yeah. So I think there's a general agreement out there. Well, maybe I'm being presumptuous, but the tape cannot be described as a secret tape. It's obvious. It is clear that the gentleman, that's Atake, was talking to members of the party. And it was not a secret meeting, so the recording could not have been secret. You know, I'm a Fanti, and I speak Fanti, I understand Fanti. I'm prepared to forgive the editors of the newspapers that put that story out. And there were about 5 or 6 newspapers at the same time, the same day, some with virtually the same headlines. I read no mischief into that. Those things do happen sometimes. We get coincidence of headlines.
It was circulated by the forum, there's a certain forum led by Otukono.
Interesting. I didn't know that. I'll be honest with you.
Later, after the newspapers had put it out. It was after.
I see.
They picked it up and further circulated.
Okay. So they are not the originators.
No.
Okay, that's and then thank God for the immediate intervention, because I was just going to say that then we can trace it to a political party. But whatever it is, the beneficiary, the apparent beneficiary, was supposed to be the NDC. But for its propaganda nuisance value, I don't see how any serious editor would take that thing as serious matter if the person understood the Fanti language. You just play to us. You just played it to us. And nowhere in that thing there that you played was Atake predicting the defeat of his party or his party's flag bearer. Nowhere. And indeed, within the context of a strategic meeting or talking to party members, the issues he raised are valid. And I'll be surprised if any party worth its salt in opposition going to contest an incumbent that is strong, that is competitive, will not look at those things. What did he say? He said, things that we hear in the political environment. Yes, the NDC are not stupid. They are out there. They've said it many times that people, Rollins had 2 terms. Kufuor had 2 terms. And indeed, I think I recall President Mahama saying that it is natural justice for them also to have 2 terms. So it's something you are hearing there. If you don't go out and contest it and let people see that this is not automatic, it will go and it will fly. Truly, this is the first incumbent under the Fourth Republic going to an election with oil as part of his baggage. Even if the revenue is not that big yet, the 14-point-something% that we made in terms of GDP, half of it is almost oil, isn't it? Oil revenue and production. When he came on board, the dynamic, the fundamentals of the Ghanaian economy changed. And a political party, you are going into a contest and you will not take that into consideration. You will not recognize that, estimate its potential, its effect, and try to educate your rank and file on it, its effect, and how to reverse whatever negative effects it may have on your campaign. Then you are not a serious political party.
Does it not also matter that this is the same man who wrote about chasing the elephant into the bush?
Oh, please, let's do things step by step. And indeed, that element of chasing the elephant into the bush, he captured it again about the complacency, the things that happened 2008, which he said, if are repeated, could create problems. Which political party doesn't do post-mortem? Indeed, the NPP itself set up a committee to do post-mortem. I haven't seen the report, but I've heard bits and pieces of it. So any serious political party, especially when you are in an encounter.
I'm surprised Bombay has not intercepted this one.
Because there isn't much willingness to do that.
I don't want to believe it hasn't been intercepted.
This is mischief. But I see your point. You made a good point there. You see, so these are critical elements that any serious political strategist or party will consider. And make no mistake, this is an incumbent. They are going for their 4th term in office. Then this is not the 2nd term they are going for. It's the 4th term, assuming they win.
Mischief.
Oh, it's a fact. Constitutionally, am I right?
I don't think so.
Who told you that?
It was truncated.
No. Listen, if they win this election, then DC would have been in office the 4th term.
In the Fourth Republic?
Yes. Aren't you aware?
That's an interesting,
yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. But that, you know, that's what I mean.
And if NPP wins, it will be 3rd term, right?
Yes, yes, but that's correct.
So let's situate it.
No, but that's constitutionally the point I'm making. From 1993 to 97 was 1st term. 1997 to 2001 was their 2nd term. We want to call it 2nd time, fine. Then 2009 to 2012, 13 will be 3rd. If they should win, they are going for the 4th as a political party.
But strict constitutional language, there's nothing like 4th term. The Constitution talks about
you're concerned about selectivity. So
please,
okay,
let's move on. Exactly
okay.
what I'm talking about.
We get the point.
The NDC, if it wins this election, would have tasted office the 4th time.
That's correct.
And the NPP.
So why are we debating this?
The NPP the 3rd
Yes.
time.
I think it's when you use term, because term presupposes that it's continuous.
Knew what I was talking
Oh, no, we do, but it's just for the sake of
education.
The submission is laden with some mischief.
Okay, so that is what Atake was doing, telling his party people, these are the challenges. And I'm saying that let nobody underestimate the strength of the NDC today as a political party. It's the incumbent. That alone is a lot.
So, Koko, if it's good for his party, and like you acknowledge, his party also set up a committee to do post-mortem, why should he get into trouble for speaking to the facts?
Where did he get into trouble from?
He says so.
Where? He might have been referring to the fallouts of the chasing the elephant into the bush. We all know what happened. I even had a problem with him because he misunderstood me and took me on and tore me into shreds. For something I said on Newsfile.
Yeah, I think you were fair.
Yes, he tore me. No. He tore me into shreds because he didn't understand what I was saying. President Kufuor had a problem with an aspect of the book and issued a public statement. The whole former president. issued a public statement contesting the validity of something in the book. And there were a lot of guys in the MPP who were not happy.
Yeah, especially the Chebi.
That's what he was referring to. But I think I admire his courage of conviction, his persistence, his consistency. He's a young man. I think we should admire those things about him. But in this case, he was having a strategy meeting with his party people. And if at that forum you can't highlight these things, you are not a serious political animal. And any political party that today, if the MPP indeed have not sat down and looked at all these issues, then they are not worth being a political party. You are going to face an incumbent, okay? But that has oil at its disposal. What are you talking about? It's a formidable opponent. It's a competitive opponent that they are going to contest. And this election will be closely fought, keenly contested, perhaps a cliffhanger with the outcome. That's my view. If I were an MPP advisor and consultant, I'll tell them to take all these things Atake raised into consideration. But I believe they had done that already. And that's why he was talking to his party people and highlighting them. Clearly, this thing, in terms of the media, in terms of the electorate, because there are certain sections of our electorate, and I'm not insulting anybody, that are gullible, that are relatively unsophisticated, that in times, and the 1 week time, is enough for anybody in terms of political psyops to put this out there and say, hey, Atake grass now, and I can tell you, before they can get time to cure that mischief, in all the places, it may have had some little effect. So it had a propaganda nuisance value, but don't underestimate it. It happens across the political divide.
Remember, he's the founder of media diabolism.
Yes, I understand it. And it can have an effect in some areas.
Dr. Pat, come in here. How have you also followed this?
Well, quite clearly, I think that there is something useful in terms of acknowledging that tapes have always played a role in modern democratic systems of governance. I mean, even in the so-called advanced democracies, if you remember, when Obama was running for his first term, the video about Reverend White and how that had to cause him to give a major statement about race relations in the U.S.
They don't seem the same for me.
And he left the church.
Oh yes, and he left the church as well. And that tape was not immediate. I mean, everybody knew that it was a tape, a sermon that was delivered a long time ago.
But you're talking about different content.
Well, the point I'm making is that these tapes, and depending on whose voice is captured, and the position of that individual and how close you are to the candidate certainly can resonate. You must also put this into context. I mean, as Kweku alluded to, he had gotten into trouble for writing a book that has become a favorable source of reference, particularly for the NDC. Yeah, so when he makes this statement and then he gives, I mean, he essentially indicates that he expects to get into some type of trouble for making this suggestion. But then certainly raises very factual issues that he believes are giving the ruling party an edge. And it is true. If you look at the history, it is quite unusual for any party in government to lose an attempt for a second term in office. And of course, we've not also had a situation where a ruling party is going to an election with a resource like oil under its belt in terms of being the overall superintending government looking at the oil. And that raises a lot of other issues. It brings about matters of peace, about trust. Who does the people think that would have the better capacity to manage this resource in a way that will benefit them? And that can be used as part of the messaging for the ruling party. And then he mentions Greater Accra and Central Region, speaking of how if he wakes up or if somebody woke up and was not following the process, he would ask. And if he heard that a particular party won Accra and the Central Region, then he would probably conclude.
Swing region.
Yes.
But don't forget that he also mentioned the fact that it was President Mills then.
Yes.
From, if you look at the
conceded. But the point I even want to build is that since the passing of President Mills, I think we can agree that I mean, there's evidence to show that, in fact, the NDC has actually become even much more stronger. We would agree that the president has been able to consolidate.
Is that a compliment for the late Mills?
Well, it is a continuum.
No, is it a compliment?
Yeah, exactly.
Really?
It is a continuum. You can't separate Mills.
So
From
under
Mahama.
Mills' leadership, the NDC lost some
The
time.
simple fact is that let's take the presence
Well,
of
President Mahama was his chosen
I
successor.
mean,
Yeah, but what is the
let me make
effect
my
of
point.
this point?
The point I am making is that we, for example, had people who had even challenged the late president.
He's saying, Kofi Bako is suggesting to you that if you say that the party is stronger under President John
Of
Mahama
course.
within this very short space of time,
It brought the party
that is
together.
an indictment on the late president.
The passing of the late president was an avenue that caused the different
was
factions
division
of
under
the
the
party
late president.
to come together.
No, so the late
But you
president's
know
leadership.
that the
No, I
former
just want you
first
to
lady
say, tell me,
tried.
I'm seeking a different.
Okay,
These are
okay,
facts
we
that
can
we
move
all
on from that
missed.
point. We can move on from that point.
Yeah, you are trying to test me, but I'm
So,
sure I'm capable of
Dr.
dealing with
Park,
that.
finish.
So the point I'm making is that
There's mischief in
the
the air.
party, in spite of the tragedy that hit it, was able to use that as a catalyst to unify.
It was
To the extent that
divided.
even the former president, who had sworn not to even appear on the campaign platform, has been seen at NDC. All of these are positives.
And the
They are
president talks
positives
about
because-
blessing in adversity.
well, I can't quote
Sometimes.
him verbatim. But I think that those of us who have gone through tragedies in our own families, there is always a silver lining. You will cry and you will cry, but at the point in time, you are bound to see something that you learn
All right.
from such a devastating process. So I think that by and large, there is every reason why this statement that the NDC is the party to beat come election 2012, it can be supported. I'm not even going to go to
No,
the
but
statistics.
Atake
Okay,
did not predict an NPP
Okay.
defeat.
He said
You,
they are
you
going to
cannot
be-
proceed on the right premise but draw a wrong conclusion.
We have very limited time, but we need to go to the next issue. We need to go to the next issue, gentlemen. Sorry.
It's not fair to
Thank you very much, Dr. Park. And I've got a few messages here, and I'll read them from my production. This is Theodore Achinanyako. He says that the real threat to the society is more of the failure of the state to enforce its laws to protect law-abiding citizens than criminal activities, because such are to be expected. And so, if we indeed want peace, it is safe not to bank our hopes on politicians, but focus on building the capacity of our institutions to deal with the threats swiftly and professionally. Peace is not always the absence of violence, and that is a philosophical truth. Thank you for sending in that one. Okay, we'll move on to the next subject that we have. This has to do with the board chairman of GIPC, the Ghana Investment Promotion Center. There are calls on him to learn from the CEO and also resign over the monies that the checks that were issued, the 4,000 check to the volunteers for John Mahama, and also the 20,000 check that was issued for his birthday, which he said had been returned, but the CEO, who has resigned, later came to state that the check was not returned in full, that 9,000 of it had already been used for the birthday. Now, because of these, we are told about these contradictions, and so he should step aside. We have tapes that we wanted to play, but we have very limited time. If we can just move straight forward. Is it a fair request that Dr. Ishmael Yamson should follow the CEO, Abuaji?
That is obvious. It's a strong, valid request. And it hurts me to say this because Mr. Yamson is somebody I have huge respect for, in spite of my disagreements or reservations over how they went about the Chirehesi thing. For me, he's a giant in Ghana's history in terms of industry, good corporate governance and things. So it's with really much difficulty that I'm making this commentary. But if it's the matter of principle and consistency, I do not see how if Abuaji, that's George Abuaji, gets out, Mr. Yamson should stay in. I find it difficult to accept that, particularly against the backdrop of the obvious contradictions that have emerged between the two of them. Mr. Yamson was public and categorical that the 20,000 cedis check was returned. And indeed, before he came on air, we had picked from the system that that was not true. Fortunately, that same day, Mr. Boaji was on your station.
The next day?
The day we had picked that, the same day.
Okay.
He had come to confirm it. And Mr. Yamson hasn't spoken as we speak. That itself is significant. The silence is very loud. I'm told what Mr. Boaji said is true. I've checked. And there's enough documentation to validate what Mr. Boaji said. So in view of the fact, it's not so much that he even received the 20,000, that it was issued, that check was issued in the first place. That is relative to Mr. Yamson. But the fact that he came to deny, to make a point that it came, but he returned it, only for us to realize that 9,000 of it was used. That alone is sufficient for him to, as a matter of principle, step aside, in my opinion.
Can we grant him that he may not have known the full facts as of the as
so
at the
check.
time, because this, we are told, was supposed to be a surprise birthday party, and it is his children who were
you check before you go
it.
public, because you're coming to deny a media report or media reports that have generated some controversy. So you call the board or you call the management, you ask for the documentation, and you make an appropriate response. So if you don't, so I'm not saying he deliberately lied. I don't think he's a man of honor. He's a man of integrity. And that's the point I'm making. So he didn't lie. I don't think he went out of his way to deceive Ghanaians. I can't believe it. That's not him. So, but unfortunately, out there is a problem. You do the honorable thing by stepping aside.
Could it be that he ordered the return and it was not
Yeah, but I'm saying that in view of what
taken.
has happened, that's what you do in good quality corporate governance. You wash your hands off and you step aside. He doesn't need GIPC to survive. He's above it. He's beyond it. And that's why some people are wondering all this thing shouldn't have happened in the first place. But see, there are fundamental issues that is worrying me. The point about they stopped the 4,000 cedis check, that too has become murky, as you know. There is this point about it makes that we gave it to them, we retrieve it, and we gave it to them again. It doesn't make sense. But Mr. Yamson also said we stopped it. Why didn't they stop the donation to the Heroes Fund? Why didn't they stop the donation? If I have here a letter dated 29th June 2012 from the Honorable Clement Bogassi, apparently he's the CEO of Community Water and Sanitation Agency, written to Mr. Boaji. Dear sir, contribution towards the Heroes Fund. At the just ended Heroes Fund fundraising dinner held at the banquet hall on Friday, 15 June, the various groupings in the party and government were represented in the anonymous. I wish to state that attendance of colleagues, CEOs, and MDs of governmental institutions were not the best. Only few of us were present. All the various groupings present at the function made group donations and pledges, and the quotations for pledge contributions were on the high side. In this vein, comparing the contributions made by the other groups, my colleague and I, present at the function, were compelled to pledge on behalf of all CEOs and MDs of the various governmental institutions. We pledged that each CEO and MD will contribute to at least 1,500 Ghana cedis to the fund. Colleagues will agree with me that the contribution is for a worthy cause and we must put our weight behind it. It is therefore my hope that all colleagues, CEOs and MDs will rise up to the occasion and contribute generously into the fund. The details of the fund accounts are here. Then Abuaji minutes to his acting deputy director finance. Please advance 1,500 Ghana cedis to the fund. Dated 18 July 2012. You stopped the 4,000 to volunteers for Mahama, but you were unable to stop 1,500 to Heroes Fund.
He said his initial impression was that this was for a peace walk.
Oh, you are talking of the 4,000,
yes,
but that
4,000.
is even, I mean, you see, these are the things that are killing the credibility of what they are saying. Have you read the letter, appeal for sponsorship? Have you seen it?
He says it wasn't stated on the letter. He had subsequent discussions with the
No,
group.
but he minuted the letter. The minutes that he put there, it's on the letter. Appeal for sponsorship. So where's the evidence that they had interaction and then he wrote on that minutes? Please, let's be fair. This thing ought not to have happened in the first place. That's the point. It ought not to have happened at all. And there's a long list of CEOs who all used public funds to contribute to the Heroes Fund. CEOs.
Who are you talking about?
Oh, I've just read to you, Bogas, who is the coordinator of this thing.
It's a presumption or logical you are making from this.
No. But you want me to disclose the story I'm going to do next week here? I'm just giving you a hint, but it's implied here. But I'm telling you that he was the coordinator and he got GIPC to do their donation. And as he said, he's got the other colleagues.
No, but we're dealing with
First
facts.
of all,
if you're speaking about it.
Community Water and Sanitation Agency, they donated. Bugasi himself, he donated in the name of the Community and Water Sanitation Agency. There are many more. I'm going to publish them. I'm not disclosing it here. I know you want the scoop. You understand? But let me also put the scoop out. In this case, there's competition.
Okay, let me turn to Dr. Park now. We have very limited time, so
well, yeah, I'll keep it very brief and straight to the point. First of all, I think that we must commend the action directed by the president. I think it is very important that as a demonstration.
I'm told there's some attempt to victimize some people for purportedly leaking information, confidential information, at GIPC.
Is that so?
Some of the staff are agitated because there's an attempt to search, locate, and sanction those who were supposed to have been the source of the leakage of info to the media.
Judge Abuaji stated that he was uncomfortable with that situation. That
the staff are agitated.
in the process of dealing with the check,
I am cautioning government not to make that the issue.
In any case, yeah.
I'm glad you are saying so, Sami.
Okay, Dr. Park.
In any case, I think I may now that I've had the chance to sit close to Kweku, I may have to develop a friendship with him that would allow me to also be getting very important documents like this, even when they are not supposed to be public.
He's an editor.
Well,
yeah, that's my
you know I'm also in the media, Radio Universe at least, in any case. But the point I'm trying to make is that action has been initiated. Quite clearly, some of us who believe in good governance and we see that there's always a need to ensure that public officials, even when they make errors in judgment, in ways that are not complementary to the positions that they hold, that something should be done. It should be looked into, and if and when there is indications that what they did was simply outside of their code of ethics or conduct, then of course action. They will have a responsibility to do the honorable thing by stepping aside.
When do we expect your group to issue a statement on this?
Well, we are monitoring it very closely. As Kweku has said, he's here to publicize a lot more information. So hopefully once we understand the details of this issue, because we haven't even seen the official report yet, then we will. But
you should have left there long
ago. But
ago.
don't take it for granted. We live in a part of the world where bigger scandals have occurred, and people have refused to step aside.
He was a parliamentary candidate.
Sometimes,
what was he waiting for in office?
Even sanctioned by leaders. So we shouldn't underrate, if you like, the symbolic value of it.
Okay,
there is some symbolic value. But in any case, I think that depending on the nature of this development, you know, if indeed it comes out that there's complicity at the highest level, at least within the context of the board chair, and he also has to go, I think he will be able to decide and do the honorable thing. There is nothing wrong with that. As has been indicated, he doesn't need to be there. And I don't think that if he feels that this development is going to impugn
I ask about your group because you spoke about your group issuing statements about good governance issues. I'm thinking you may be late in coming.
Why would you say that?
Obviously.
I mean, there is no reason why we should be late in coming.
5 days gone.
Our group is not based on the election. So, I mean, as long as it is of public interest, regardless of the time, we will take action.
Okay.
But the point is that action is being taken. People are resigning. And depending on what else come up on this issue, which I believe is being looked into, we would expect the right thing to be done.
Okay, Nana.
See, the bigger issue is about the reckless use of public funds to promote the NDC party. It's big, this thing is bigger than GIPC. I mean, Kweku's just read to you a letter that shows you there's a pattern of taking public monies to prosecute a partisan political agenda. And the genuine public functions are not being fulfilled, are not being met. The capitation grant, which will allow our children to remain in school, is a huge arrears, not being paid. The feeding grant. Nurses are going on strike because their allowances have not been paid for years. We don't have gas in the system. We're having an electricity load shedding because we can't buy fuel to power the plants. We're supposed to have an installed capacity of over 2,000 megawatts. Only 200 is out, and there's nationwide load shedding for months. The basic requirements of governance are not being fulfilled. And what you have on your hands is that public funds are rather being procured to pursue a partisan agenda. So all you need to do is form a group, boys for Mahama, girls for Mahama, students for Mahama, youth for Mahama, volunteers. All you have to do is form a group with Mahama in the name. And then, you know, you go there and it's being laid on. This GIPC is the tip of the iceberg.
The Mahama campaign office has come out to denounce this, that this is not right. They don't sanction it.
But significantly,
well,
the head of the communication team, GIPC, doesn't it fall under the Ministry of Trade and Industry?
It does.
No, they are under the president.
Okay.
They come under the
so
president.
the minister has no supervisory role.
All right.
So what does the Mahama team know? They didn't know about the use of Otabel's voice to pursue an agenda. They are not responsible. What do they know? What are they responsible for? When you look at the lies that have attended upon even the GIPC matter, the volunteers themselves, they said the money has not been paid.
Nana, you are involved in this business. Tell me, there may be groups that are sympathetic to your campaign.
Political party.
Do you know when each and every one of them make an application to any institution for support?
If a group like Heroes Fund, launched by the Vice President then, John Mahama, he launched it. If they are writing letters to public institutions to procure public funds for the group, what are we talking about, Samson? The Heroes Fund. And it doesn't get to the notice of anybody.
You're not answering my question.
I've answered your question directly. That what they are saying is not true.
Do you
I'm saying to you,
do you know about every request for funds that goes out from those who support the Nanado campaign?
I have said to you that if you have the Heroes Fund, not some obscure something done by some group somewhere, launched by the Vice President, now President, and that Heroes Fund is writing to CEOs of public institutions to procure money, you are saying that they won't know that it's being done on the blind side? It's not possible. These letters that were written by the volunteers, it went right up to the top. The letter is not handed directly to, it goes through the system, and nobody knows, and the money is paid. The volunteers now, they say we didn't get the money. The government is saying, please go and refund the money. The board is giving the 20,000 to the chairman. The chairman says, I didn't take the money. The people say that you took it, you spent almost half of it. You know, there's a pattern of lies. But you see, it's a shame because these are public monies. We don't have time, so I wanted to give you all the examples of lies that have been told. But my conclusion is that these are public monies that are being expended to prosecute the agenda of the ruling government. My last point on this, they say John Mahama is the unifier. But your party is still torn into shreds.
Sorry, but we have to move on.
Kunedu has taken a chunk of it.
We are very
your MPs are standing against themselves in primaries, and you say he's a unifier. What has he unified?
Sammy, it's your turn.
What has he unified?
It's your turn.
Tell us what he has unified.
You're asking something.
Yeah, because your party is still...
please. He's got just 3 minutes.
We are discussing GIPC. I think that a lot of the issues have to be put in proper context. I remember also receiving a letter calling on ministers reminding them that they had to contribute. Let us differentiate between donate to a cause in your personal capacity.
Of course.
And then a chief executive minuting. The mistake Mr. Boaji made was to minute on the letter that go ahead.
Sammy, who is this addressed to? If it's his personal cash, would he address to?
The deputy director, acting deputy director of finance.
Yes.
And I have proof that they pay the money.
No, I'm coming. I'm making the point that minute was
a
wrong.
mistake.
Look,
but it ended up
on a daily basis.
Not just the wrong minutes being wrong.
On a daily basis, I get
pay the money.
Not less than even 50 of such letters. Appeal for funds. Help me. I have an outdooring coming up. My mother is sick. I must organize this funeral. I am.
No, Sammy, are you saying the money wasn't paid?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
No, he's saying Abuaji's method was wrong.
You're not getting it. I'm saying that let's
taking it as a personal
Nana Komia is creating the impression that look,
okay.
These letters are being written to fleece the state, and
okay.
But that's what is happening.
It's supposed to be your personal contribution.
That's what they should have done.
You know that even as ministers of state, to keep our party running, we all contribute on a monthly basis. We contribute from your personal, because why?
Agree, but
you are a worker. You're either a chief executive, you're a minister, you're an MP, members of parliament too. When we're in opposition, MPs really sustain the NDC from their own allowances and salaries. So you make a monthly contribution. So it was not for the chief executive to minute.
Unfortunately, some of them did.
I'm really disgusted about these revelations.
They shouldn't have done that.
And he's my good friend. I mean, he's a very fine man, very experienced. I've spoken to him. That
I think the lottery should punish him in his constituency.
This mistake, you can't.
No, it's true. The lottery should punish him.
Sorry. 1 minute. Just 30 seconds. You see, Nana Komia here created the impression that, and it hurts me. It really saddens me. It's very disheartening. That look at the amounts we are talking about. 4,000 cedis, 1,500 cedis. Nana Komia and his friends. That is why we must cut out the hypocrisy. Nana Komia and his friends, under the guise of implementing a certain communication strategy program.
We're going back there. We
created groups,
communication strategy.
And the Auditor General reveals that 425,938 Ghana cedis, more than 4 billion. We are not talking about 1,500. Was spent on groups such as Prem, Blow, Great, Rapid Response, Media Executive, Editors Forum. So I'm saying that Nana Komia cut out the hypocrisy.
Thank you very much.
Let us condemn wrongdoing.
Unfortunately, this is where we bring the curtains on this show. We are unable to discuss the very last issue about the Judgment Debt Commissioner and whether or not he's got the powers to arrest and search and all. Well, I've got some advice from very senior lawyers who say that those who challenge the commission should avert their minds to CI 65 of 2010, and they would find that the Judgment Debt Commissioner indeed has the powers of the police, and what the Justice of the Court of Appeal said is correct. This show has been brought to you by the sponsorship of MTN and High Sense. My name is Samson Ladia. Yanini, my guest have been Abdul Malik Wekubaku Jr. He's the managing editor of the New Crusading Guide newspaper. Dr. Clement Park is convener of the Forum for Governance and Justice. Nana Komia is MP and also communications director of the NPP. Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa is also aspirant MP, and he is a deputy information minister. This show was directed by Yaya Abubakar, and also director of photography Aaron Na, camera and sound David Aye and Festus, David Andrew and Festus. It was by the executive producership of Sedem Ofori. Have a good afternoon.